Excellency Bishop Carney, Father Roach, Right Reverend and Very Reverend Monsignori, Reverend Fathers, Father Cannell, Sister Agnes Cecilia, devoted sisters and members of the faculty, loving parents, and friends. Tonight, when we formed our line at Kilburn Hall and entered this theater to take our places on this brilliantly lighted stage, we could feel our hearts stirred with mixed emotions, joy and sorrow. Joy, because on this night we have fulfilled our parents' dreams and our own dreams by reaching a long-desired goal to graduate from Nazareth Academy. Sorrow, because this is our last night as members of Nazareth student body. In times of happiness and in times of sorrow, we need someone to share our joy or burden. On this night, we ask you, our self-sacrificing parents, you, our tireless teachers, and you, our friends and well-wishers, to join in the commencement exercises of the class of 1963. When we first donned our Nazareth uniform, we were young, immature, and unsure of our goal in life. In our early teens, our minds were susceptible and could have easily been influenced by the materialism and moral decay of our world. Our Catholic education protected us through the perseverance, guidance, and wisdom of our teachers, and through the tender, loving care of our moms and dads. We were guided through our perilous teens and prepared for an adulthood that embodied both the spiritual and the material. For this and much more, we, your daughters and your students, offer you our heartfelt but inadequate thank you. With this firm foundation, we know that we are ready to face the future. We are conscious that we exemplify Christian womanhood and that ours is the power to make great men. For every great man, there is a great woman. This woman, whether she be a mother, a wife, a teacher, or a nun, is not necessarily in the limelight. She walks in beauty, unobtrusive, like the dawn. St. Jerome said, her speech is silent speech. Of this year, our late beloved Holy Father, Pope John the 23rd, issued the encyclical Pacem in Terris, Peace on Earth. Already this encyclical has won wide acclaim. David Lawrence, our Washington correspondent, wrote, there was almost universal applause for the document issued by Pope John the 23rd, entitled Peace on Earth. In a letter to the editor in the Democrat and Chronicle, an average Protestant man stated, it is refreshing to find someone who commands public respect express such noble and humanitarian views. United States, John F. Kennedy said of it, as a Catholic, I am proud. As an American, I have learned. Pope John addressed his encyclical to all men of goodwill. And what has this encyclical to do with us Christian young women, about to take our place in a world awesome in its nuclear potential to build or to destroy? Each one of us has a definite part to play in this peace crusade. We cannot let ourselves be crushed by the forces of evil, hate, discord. With our faith, our education, we are ready to meet the challenge set forth by our late Holy Father, who I feel looks down upon us, here, tonight. His faith lies in us. We are the vanguard of his peace crusade. The world is ours to conquer. Of what does peace consist? Pope John said justice, liberty, charity. A justice wherein all men are accepted as equal. A liberty which gives good jobs to the Negro, clean homes to the disease-ridden tenement dwellers, and food to the starving peoples. Above all, our peace must be founded on love, a love which goes out of its way to do something for those in need, regardless of their racial, social, or religious background. Like anything precious, this love is difficult to obtain. No student can find a special course in how to love one's brethren. She must learn its meaning through sacrifice and devotion, and oftentimes through pain and grief. If Christ, and Christ is love, is to be taken into our modern world, we Christians must take him there with an ardent zeal. Lenin once said, if he had 6 men like St. Francis of Assisi, he could conquer the world. Although Lenin did not have 6 men like St. Francis, since his time, communism has grown by leaps and bounds. Its advocates are staunch. In contrast, Christianity has made no tremendous gains in the last century. Why? It's not because we Christians lack sound ideas and ideals, but because we lack enthusiasm for Christ. In order to do great things, one must be enthusiastic. As our own New England poet tells us, it is faith in something and enthusiasm for something that makes life worth looking at. Once in colonial times, a dark day occurred. The sun seemed to disappear at midday, and the people became terrified, and they began to cry that the end of the world was going to come. Even the legislature was disturbed and wished to adjourn immediately. One staunch member of the legislature calmed their fears and said, I make a motion that we secure some candles and proceed with our business. If the end of the world is going to come, I want to be found doing my duty. We too should be found always doing our duty. And when we take an active part in public life, working with civic leaders as well as our own religious groups, we are doing our duty. We are working for the common good of true and lasting peace. A college senior once said, "This is my world just as much as it is anybody's, and I am going to work just as hard to save it as others are working to wreck it." If on this very night we fix in our hearts and minds the same firm determination to save our world, we will form our own UN, a united Nazareth, united in spirit and in purpose. We will be members of a Peace Corps headed by the Prince of Peace. With him, our legion shall be strong, powerful. It shall conquer the world. We pray tonight the prayer of St. Francis. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace.
Your Excellency, Bishop Kearney, Father Roach, Father Connell, Right Reverend and Very Reverend Monsignori, Reverend Fathers, Sister Agnes Cecilia, members of the faculty, parents, and friends. Over many a courthouse in America, there stands the figure of justice. She holds a scale, for her hands mete out justice to men. In the New York harbor, there stands the figure of liberty. She holds up the torch of freedom, for her hands carry the gift of liberty to all in our land. Tonight, as we graduates of Nazareth Academy stand here, we hold in our hands our diplomas, our roses. Red roses tied with blue, symbol of all our country has given us. Our diplomas stamped with the Nazareth seal, symbol of all our Catholic faith has given us. As we stand here tonight, Our hands are indeed full, full of all we have received. What in return shall we give? The story is told of a young French girl who'd been injured in an accident. As she lay on her deathbed, she cried out to a nun in the hospital, "Oh, sister, I'm terribly frightened, for I go to God with empty hands." This girl realized too late all the opportunities to do good she had wasted. She had not used the talents and gifts God had given her to help others. Her hands were indeed empty. Until now, we have been like this young girl. We have had our hands outstretched only to take. And God has been so good. He's given us a loving home, wonderful parents, the opportunity for a Catholic education, and life in a free land. Yes, we have been amassing a tremendous debt to God, to our parents, to our teachers. Words alone will never repay our debt. We must use our education, not only for our own advantage, but to help others. We must stretch out our hands to the waiting world. St. John of the Cross has said, "At the end of our lives, we will be judged on love." How can we show this love? Christ himself tells us, "Whatever you do for these, the least of my brethren, you do it for me." Authentic love of God is shown in service for others. Some of us have already given service as hospital aides, camp counselors, playground assistants. But as we grow to womanhood, our responsibilities must increase. What can a woman do to lift the world to Christ? What blessings can our hands bestow? Perhaps you remember, in 1961, Mr. Douglas Johnson, a poor man from Los Angeles, found in the street a canvas sack containing $240,000. This man turned that sum of money over to the FBI, and it was restored to the owner. What of Mr. Johnson? Instead of commendation, he received letters from all over the country denouncing him as a fool. His little son was taunted by his classmates and even given a knife by a man who told him to kill his stupid father. Is this America? Until last year, Mr. Bert Steingruby was the manager of a large family housing project in St. Louis. Then came the shocking discovery. Mr. Steingruby had been digging into his own pocket to help more than 1,000 families who faced eviction to pay their rent. What was his reward? Mr. Steingruby lost his job. Is this America? Is the American story also bleak? No, indeed. Let the news print the account of a little boy who must have his Christmas in October because he will be dead at Christmas. All America floods his home with gifts. Many people noted the quickness with which our soldiers forgave their enemies, the kindness they showed toward foreign children. America is the land of great hearts, but often her sense of values becomes distorted. This is where America needs us, her women, in the hands of the mother, in the hands of the nun, in the hands of the social worker are the souls of America's children. In our hands, then, lies our country's future. These hands of ours laden tonight with gifts, cultural, intellectual, religious. These hands must begin to give. As the women of tomorrow, we have the privilege, the opportunity, and the duty to indelibly imprint our beliefs in the world. But perhaps you will say, we are only ordinary people, unimportant. What is importance? Have we come to associate importance with notoriety, with celebrity, with society? Every woman is a celebrity, for every woman is an artist, a sculptor who molds not only the bodies, but the minds of men. We must teach the youth of tomorrow what we have learned. We must imprint in our country a right sense of values, for it has been said, as the women go, so goes the nation. Can we let the honesty of a Mr. Johnson or the kindness of a Mr. Steingrabe become a mockery? No, let us use our hands to lift the world. Let them be hands that work. Let us not desire hands flashing with jewels or carefully manicured without marks of toil. Selfish hands. No, let us desire ugly hands. Hands that have given themselves in service for others. Hands that have grown creased and rough with toil. Ugly hands. Ugly hands. Lord, when I die, I pray. I could not rest if they express the beauty men adore. For hard and cold, frozen and bold is beauty, protected and saved. So through my life, through toil and strife, make my hands used, not saved, that when I die, they may lie not beautiful, but blessed.
requested me to ask their mothers to please stand up. May I first of all add a word of thanks and congratulations to the parents of the members of this class. I think these young ladies have already expressed only too beautifully the sentiments in their hearts to their mothers, and father may have a share of that too, even though he wasn't mentioned. There is no second verse of father, sometimes I write one. But we do wish to thank you for having given us the privilege of the education of your daughter during these very important 4 years. We realize in the present time especially the deep concern that is in the heart of every parent for the education of a girl during these trying days, when so many of the ideals that are dearest to a mother's heart are sneered at in the world in which we live. We have told to you richer intellectually and spiritually. In other words, to send them after having done the work that you gave us to do. We are very happy to return these young ladies to their homes tonight with a sincere word of thanks for the great privilege that Nazareth Academy has had of having been part of their lives, having contributed something to their development, and having made them young women of which you may be proud, as we are proud. We wish to congratulate the school once again on the magnificent record that this class has made, as evidenced by their success in the various educational competitions, but more especially the fact that they have been successful in living up to the ideals of a fine school with almost a century of service behind it. It is certainly a great distinction. It's a great honor, and it's a magnificent tradition for them to be able to say for the rest of their lives that they are Nazareth girls. And my dear friends, in the class of 63, your valedictorian has directed our thoughts for a moment to the feel of hands, and it recalled a very beautiful story I once read of a mother who was dying, and her young girl who was educated and had been through college was sitting by her side in her last moments. mother said to her, "What do I say to God when I come before him in judgment? I don't know what to say. You're educated. You've learned how to speak. What should I say to him?" The daughter answered, "Say nothing, mother. Just show him your hands." She knew that those hands told a story of love and devotion, consecration, sacrifice, and so tonight I want to talk to you about 3 dedications that make up the story that closes tonight. This is a story of love. Every graduation is a story of love. But it's the story of the hands of a mother, the lips of a mother, and the heart of a mother. The hands of the mother are the hands to which you have just paid tribute in the very familiar song, Mother Creek. Those hands were the first to grasp you to her breast. Those hands that nourished you, those hands that brushed away the temperature from your fevered brow, those hands that were lifted in mourning when you were a little girl and tempted to make a mistake, those hands that lifted yours to your brow the first time you made the sign of the cross, those hands that joined you in prayer, those hands that patted you with devotion when you did what was right, and patted you with equal devotion when you did what was wrong. The wonderful hands of a mother, the mother of whom you have sung tonight. And those hands will always be lifted over you in benediction and blessing. Those hands will always be lifted for you as they have from the very beginning in prayer. Only in heaven will you know what those hands have done for you in the love story that ends tonight. But I said there were also the lips of a mother, because these mother's hands of which we have just spoken on a certain day took you by your hand and knocked on the door of Nazareth Academy and left you there. And then the lips of a mother came into the picture. Because when your mother at Nazareth Academy to talk to you as a little girl, to talk to you day after day for 4 years, to talk with the experience of 90 years of blessing the lives of young girls, to talk to you of God, of history, of science, of beauty. All those things go to make up the course of study, but always with the thought that these things would make your mind richer, your soul more beautiful. The wonderful lips of an old school, the lips of a mother. And the third part of this love story is the heart of a mother. Because from the very beginning, Nazareth Academy, because of its very name, was devoted to the greatest mother of history, the Mother of God. She made it her business from the very beginning to make that mother a great part of your life. And into it then came, after the hands of a mother, the lips of a mother, came the heart of a mother, the Immaculate Heart of Mary. You learn the devotion of that heart. You learned it because it came in answer to your prayers. You learned it because in time of difficulty, you went to that heart for assistance and care. You learned that the time would come when the love of those hands would end in the silence of the grave. You knew the time would come when the love of those lips of alma mater would end, because with your diploma she would bid you farewell. But you had the great consolation of knowing that the heart of a mother, the heart of Mary Immaculate, was going to follow you to the very end of the story. Yes, the story of mother's hands had to end and must end eventually. The story of mother's lips ends tonight. But the story of a mother's heart, the love of Mary Immaculate for you, will never end until she consecrates it for the happiness of all eternity. Don't you think then that graduation night is the end of a beautiful love story? The love of the hands of a mother, the love of the lips of a mother, and the eternal love of the heart of a mother.
Nomen Domini benedictum.
Et supplices secum.
Adjutorium nostrum in nomine Domini.
Qui feci caelum et terram.
Benedicat vos omnipotens Pater, et Filius, et Spiritus Sanctus.